stained the damask cloth. Her back rose and fell in genteel, choking spasms. The little jewels caught the light and flashed with a terrible brilliancy. Other contrasts are manifest. No one seems concerned about Roger's troubles, only about appearances. Mr. Boyne worries about the public scandal that reflects private weakness, and Uncle Fred, also at the dinner, and running for state senator, worries simply about the public scandal. I would like to call special attention to the jewels that wink in sparkling connivance as at a joke, which, they seemed to say, you too might appreciate were you as detached as stone. One way to read the Melodramatists is as one large, complicated joke. From what we have read about or by Nemerov, we know that he takes jokes seriously. To the charge by some literary critics that his fictions and poems are jokes, even bad jokes, he responded in an essay, "I incline to agree," insisting, however, that they are bad jokes, and even terrible jokes, emerging from the nature of things, as well as from my propensity for coming at things a touch subversively, and from the blind side or the dark side, the side everyone concerned with values would just as soon forget. Mrs. Boyne's jewels wink at her maudlin, melodramatic behavior. The reader winks at Mr. Boyne's melodramatic behavior when he cries at his son, "Don't be melodramatic with me, young man." It is commonly observed that we joke about the most serious, most sensitive areas of our experience: sex, insanity, affliction, religion, death, and some kind of permissible release of the tension that we feel toward them. And indeed, Nemerov seems to cover the spectrum in this novel. The domineering Mr. Boyne, after an accident, becomes a megalomaniac who, as he spends his hours soaking in a bathtub at a rest home, thinks he is God. The religious impulses of Claire culminate in the sexual debacle at the end of the story, with Episcopalians and Roman Catholics catching the brunt of the satire. And psychiatry comes in for a full-scale assault through the characters of Susan and Dr. Einman. Nemerov obviously created the fascinating, enigmatic Dr. Einman, the analytical psychologist, with a great deal of zest. The good doctor is a refugee from Auschwitz who has started a new practice in Boston and concurrently is working on a study entitled Eros and Agape. He sleeps with many of his women patients, makes extensive notes on them for his study, and in fact seems to do many of them some good. While it is true that psychiatry, along with institutional religion, receives its lumps from Nemerov, the character of Dr. Einman is much more complexly drawn than that of, say, the Jesuit, Claire's spiritual director. The portrait of the Jesuit is almost entirely negative, whereas there is much that is appealing about Einman. There is a deeper humanity about him, a humanity that reveals a vacillation similar to that of his patients, permitting him to ridicule himself, even if his self-deprecation may have the ulterior motive of swaying Susan to care for him. He says to her, "Now suppose instead that I am not a laughing psychiatrist with bound volumes of Imago and Freud's Gesamalte Werke all over the place to give the patient confidence that I already know what's what. Suppose, and you can easily imagine it, I'm a criminal and irresponsible fraud, an unholy fake, as I am." He has been created clearly as no magus, but someone flawed. There is enough about his roguishness to endear him to the reader. The creation of Einman is just one example of Nemerov's powers of negative capability. The scene in which Claire undergoes a religious experience is another. Regardless of what the author's feelings about such experiences are, he evokes this state of mind very convincingly. The reader wants, finally, of course, to feel with some certainty where the author wants to lead him, where he will be left in order to ponder the total action. It is at this point that some readers feel uncertain about how to take the novel. If one expects a satirist who is implicitly convinced of an inherited norm, and whose ridicule makes this norm clear, then he will be